Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the tropics and possible storms to come. The southern hemisphere has been inactive due to the fact that we are now in the off season, and they are in wintertime right now. But the North Indian Ocean, Western Pacific, and North Atlantic are all active at this time. The Eastern Pacific has actually been the most inactive for the out of the last several decades. We'll have to see if that the trend of inactivity will continue, or we'll get a storm to form in the next few weeks. Alright, now taking a look at our worldwide tropics. All of our activity is in the northern hemisphere, and we only have areas of interest currently. So no tropical cyclones currently active. Starting in the North Atlantic, we do have Invest 94L, or Disturbance 1, as designated by the National Hurricane Center, and I'm giving this a 20% chance as it moves towards Mexico, past the Central American region. Now, it's more likely that this system would form in the Bay of Campeche or just before moving over the Yucatan Peninsula, but there is a slight chance, and some models have been hinting at this, that its low pressure center could reform and a system could form in the Eastern Pacific, so we'll be having to watch for that and see what the system does. As of now, it's more likely that the system moves over mainland Mexico instead of moving into the Eastern Pacific, but it's still on the table as of now. Now looking at Disturbance 2, I've given that a 50% chance. I believe the National Hurricane Center has it as 30%. And this system, for the last few days, only a couple models have been saying that this system could form. Mainly the GFS has been showing this as a tropical storm and maybe even a possible hurricane. And now pretty much all the main global models have been showing this system forming. So I've upgraded this to a 50%, and chances will likely rise further. Areas impacted could include the Lesser Antilles from Barbados down to Trinidad and Tobago, or up to Puerto Rico, as slight impacts could be felt even there. Wave heights could be quite significant, so we'll be having to watch for that. So we will keep an eye on this system as this moves closer to land. This may become an invest, so that would be 95L, but as of now it is not marked and does not have a definite low pressure center. I have marked a third AOI at 0%, though I believe the next 7 days we could be seeing an uptick in chances, maybe towards 10% or more, as the system moves right in the same path as Disturbance 2 right now in the future. Alright, now looking at, well, the Eastern Pacific has nothing else active, but the North Indian Ocean. In the Bay of Bengal, I have Invest 90B at a less than 10% chance of forming, but I believe there is a small chance of this forming, but would not be too big. There's monsoonal thunderstorms going on throughout the northern part of the basin in India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. So this system could form out of that area of tropical thunderstorms, and if it does, it would more likely be a weak system than anything. Not anything too strong, definitely. Now looking at the Western Pacific, we could see our third system being named. Invest 98W, the JTWC has this as a low chance of forming in the next day, and I've marked this as a 10% as it moves to the west of the Philippines and Luzon, and to the north towards China, west of Taiwan. Alright, now looking at our individual storms, first we have 94L, which has some disorganized thunderstorms as of now, but its pressure center may become more defined in the next few days. It is to the north of Venezuela and is moving towards the Yucatan Peninsula as of now. Now, looking at the intensity guidance, we could see a tropical storm, and only one model is an outlier, becoming a Category 1, but as of now we can pretty much rule that out. The GFS has been a main contributor to forecasting this storm, as it has been showing the system forming for a few days now. Northern track should be the northernmost extent this system could track is in northern Mexico. Landfall in Texas is very unlikely, but the system could track over the Yucatan and then over Mexico. So we'll have to see if it'll fizzle out over Mexico or even not develop at all. And as of now, it is moving almost due west and should make a slight northward turn as we move forward. Now looking at the western Pacific, we have Invest 98W with very disorganized thunderstorms off to the southwest of the pressure center, and is not very well defined, so definitely not close to development, but we could see this develop in the next 5 days. The GFS has this taken towards Taiwan, and then after moving north of Taiwan, the system is not expected to develop at all. Looking past through 7 days, we see the system turn post-tropical and move through South Korea or Japan as a definite non-tropical low. Finally, looking at Invest 90B, it is currently not developed at all and is embedded in monsoonal moisture, but some models take this as developing very slightly, though it is very unlikely as of now. If it were to make landfall, it would be in Bangladesh or just to the west of that in India. Not much else going on as of now in the tropics. Now we'll take a look at the North Atlantic, since this is where most of our activity is currently happening. First, the GFS. We see our disturbance 2 starting to form, and as it approaches the Lesser Antilles, the GFS has this deepening towards a 990 low, and has this lowest in the 988 millibars, which is not terribly strong, but still something to definitely keep an eye on. And then we have this other area of interest going right after disturbance 2, and the GFS actually has it as a very similar strength to it before moving on to Cuba or Jamaica and then fizzling out. So we do have to watch for that, and then certainly this is not the end for June or July activity. We'll still have some more areas of interest to track, though these two systems along with Invest 94L are what we are currently watching. Invest 94L towards Mexico, the GFS doesn't really have this forming anymore, though something else could form on the Eastern Pacific side after the 7-day period, so we'll be having to watch for that. Now looking at the European model, we see Invest 94L moving towards the Yucatan and having a small chance of forming into a tropical depression or tropical storm. Then we have Disturbance 2 trying to form and has a decent chance of forming into a tropical storm before hitting the Lesser Antilles. Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, all the way up towards Puerto Rico, could see some slight impacts depending on where exactly the system tracks. And then the system behind Disturbance 2, the European model does not see any development, and we cannot see any farther as of now. Finally, the German model, I'll show this one. We have Disturbance 2, borderline tropical storm status through the 8-day, 9-day period. And then we have Invest 94L having a small chance of forming as it moves towards Mexico, and the other disturbance coming off the coast of Africa as a tropical wave has a small chance of forming as it moves towards Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Finally, we have severe weather today. We have a large slight risk for the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio River Valley, and then another slight risk back towards Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, northern Texas, and Colorado. Very small area along the borders of those states. And we also have a slight risk right now for mainly Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. And those storms are currently initiated and moving south into the area. But storms will form later today in the northeast, and we'll be having to track that. So in terms of the threats we could see in the slight risks today, We have a small chance of tornadoes, 2% in mainly Pennsylvania and the Hudson River Valley, towards Long Island and just short of Rhode Island. And then for wind, this is the main driver for the risk today, but we could see some small hail, maybe marginally severe throughout the interior northeast and mid-Atlantic today into the southeast. We could have some scattered hail reports at severe limits in Wyoming, Nebraska, or Colorado today. Looking past day one, we have a slight risk tomorrow for mainly the upper plains into Kansas and Nebraska. We have a marginal risk for the Carolinas coast. This is a all-severe threat, though tornadoes seem to be less probable, and some large hail and stronger winds could be possible. Finally, a slight risk on Friday encompasses the Midwest and a larger marginal risk outside of it, extending towards the Canadian border and towards Kansas and Nebraska. Fire risk does not actually looks to be quite elevated. We do have 2 areas of elevated risk and 1 critical risk, and isolated dry thunderstorms could form, meaning that lightning could spark new wildfires today. And tomorrow we have more risk for fires in Idaho, Nevada, and Utah. Alright, that's going to do it for today. Thank you for watching, and keep an eye on updates regarding severe weather and tropical activity.